Have you ever fixed a problem only for it to come roaring back a week later? Yeah. Today we're going to dig into a deceptively simple technique that stops you from just treating symptoms and helps you find the actual cure. It's a method that could completely change how you look at challenges.
We've all been there, right? That nagging issue at work, maybe at home, that you think you've fixed only for it to pop up again. It is so frustrating. It feels like you're just fighting a losing battle. But what if the problem you think you're solving isn't the real problem at all?
Well, here's the thing. The reason those issues just keep coming back is because we're often just patching up the visible symptoms. We're putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound. To truly solve a problem for good, we have to dig deeper and find that fundamental, systemic failure at its core.
And that brings us to this incredible technique that was actually born on the factory floors of Toyota. It's a method that completely transformed manufacturing and has since been adopted by software developers, healthcare professionals, educators, pretty much everyone. It's called the 5 Whys. So what is it really? At its heart, the 5 Whys is a simple but, a relentless process. You start with a problem and you just keep asking why. Each answer you get becomes the basis for the next question, leading you down this chain of logic until you just can't ask why anymore. And that spot? That's where the real answer is hiding.
A great way to think about this is like an iceberg. The part you see sticking out of the water, that's the symptom. So, for example, the production line stopped. The quick fix is to just restart it, right? But beneath the surface lies the massive, hidden root cause. In this case, maybe it's that a budget decision prevented the installation of maintenance sensors. Fixing the root cause is what makes the problem disappear for good.
And hey, this isn't some new management fad. This idea goes all the way back to the 1930s with Toyota's founder, Sakichi Toyoda. It was later perfected by Taiichi Ohno, the absolute genius behind the Toyota production system. It was just so effective that its use has totally exploded, becoming a go-to tool in virtually every industry today.
So, how do you actually do this? It's more than just, randomly asking why 5 times. There's a disciplined process to make sure you arrive at a real, actionable answer. Let's walk through the steps. Okay, first up, this is not a solo mission. You need a team with different perspectives. Second, you have got to have a crystal clear, specific problem statement. No vague stuff allowed. Then you start asking the questions, digging down until you hit a process you can actually change. And finally, and this is the most important step, you implement a real fix, a countermeasure, to solve it for good.
Okay, theory is great, but let's make this real. Imagine you work in tech. A new version of your company's app was supposed to go live, but the deployment failed. The system is down. Everybody's freaking out. Let's apply the 5 Whys.
Why number 1? Why did the deployment fail? A quick look at the logs shows a crucial piece of configuration, an environment variable, was missing. Okay, that's the first layer, easy to fix, but we're not stopping there.
So, why number 2? Why was the variable missing? We find out the lead engineer, who is fantastic at their job, simply forgot to upload it. It was a manual step in a stressful moment. Human error. Case closed? Nope, not even close.
Which leads us to why number 3. Why was it a manual step in the first place? Aha, because the automation script that handles deployments is old. It can't handle this type of configuration, so it has to rely on a human to remember. Now we're getting somewhere. We're moving past blame and into the system. And why is the script obsolete? Because the company doesn't have a process for prioritizing technical debt. That necessary but unglamorous work of updating old systems. That's the final answer. The root cause isn't a person's mistake, it's a broken planning process. And notice, we only needed 4 whys to get there. But how do you know your chain of whys is actually correct and not just a series of assumptions? Well, there's a brilliant little trick for that, to make sure your logic is rock solid. It's called the reverse flow, or the therefore test. The idea is simple. If your cause and effect chain is valid, you should be able to read it backward using the word therefore, and it should still make perfect sense. Let's try it with our tech example. We start from the bottom and read up. Technical debt isn't reviewed. Therefore, the script is obsolete. Therefore, the process was manual. Therefore, the engineer forgot. Therefore, the deployment failed. See? It flows perfectly. Our logic is sound. Now, you might think this is all straightforward, but it's surprisingly easy to get wrong. Check this out. One study of real-world analyses found that nearly half of them had flawed logic, and over a fifth failed to even identify the true root cause. This just shows how critical it is to be disciplined with the process.
So it's really important to remember this tool isn't a silver bullet, and you can guard against its weaknesses. If different teams find different causes, that usually means the initial problem statement wasn't specific enough. It can also oversimplify complex issues. So if you suspect multiple root causes, you might want to pair up with a tool like a fishbone diagram. And to prevent bias, a good facilitator focuses only on asking why, never suggesting answers. Ultimately, it's only as good as the knowledge in the room, which is why step 1, getting the right people involved is so important.
And that brings us to the single most important factor in making the 5 whys work, and has nothing to do with logic or data. It has everything to do with people. For this to work, you have to have an environment of complete trust. If people are afraid of being blamed or punished for a mistake, they will never be honest. They'll hide information to protect themselves, and your entire investigation will be worthless. This was the secret at Toyota. Any worker could pull a cord to stop the entire production line without fear. That trust is what allowed them to find and fix problems at their source. Psychological safety is not a nice-to-have. It's an absolute prerequisite. This right here, this is the entire philosophy in a single sentence. The goal of the 5 whys is never to find a person to blame. It is always to find a broken process to fix. When your team truly believes this, that's when you'll find the real answers. So, think about that reoccurring problem, the one that just won't go away. You now have the tool to finally get to the bottom of it. The only question left is, what's the first why you're going to ask?